Global Q&A.
Hello to everyone that's listening. We are very excited to be part of this new series of Q&A from around the globe, where we'll be meeting with different community leaders, rabbis, to discuss some of the common questions we all have. I'm Rav Ari Silberman, Mizrahi UK Shaliach in Manchester, and usually Rabbi Koenigsberg accompanies me as well from Mizrahi UK. The situation of COVID has brought up a lot of questions, a lot of challenges, and in many ways across the world, people are all in the same boat, different communities, different continents, but we're all actually in this together. On the other hand, every community is unique, every place has its own set of circumstances, and every Rav has to deal with things in a way that is right for his kehillah. Today, I am honored to be joined by Rav Efrem Goldberg, who is the senior rabbi of Boca Raton Synagogue in Florida. Rabbi Goldberg also serves as vice president of the Rabbinical Council of America, a member of the Board of Trustees of the Beit Din of America and the AIPAC National Council, amongst many other things. And we are very lucky to have him be able to ask our questions during this very challenging time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to see you.
Thank you. So we'll begin, I guess, with the first question, which is, what do you think has been the biggest challenge to your community brought about by COVID-19?
It's a great question. Every community is different, and I would answer that question differently almost every day as we go through this, as things are so rapidly changing. You know, we shut down fairly early in communication with our hospital heads and our doctors and the task force, which we had convened. We shut down even before we were obligated to shut down, and we're very grateful that we think that the early action we took hopefully saved lives. And we were very blessed that even with an outbreak around us, our immediate community really didn't suffer. We had one person in the hospital on a ventilator who, thank God, is actually out of rehab and home and well. And other than that, while we had several positive cases, we didn't really have people whose health was challenged or severely compromised. And during that time, you know, I would have told you it was one set of challenges we were going through. Now, as we're on the other end, not on the other end, we wish we were on the other end, we're seeing an enormous spike around us and a really large spread. Hospitals are nearing capacity again, and each day we are convening and asking, maybe we should shut down. Camps opened up following the CDC, the health guidelines. Maybe the camps need to close down. Maybe shul needs to close down. So each day there are different challenges that come to us, and they're the challenges from the perspective of health and public policy, and then there are the challenges of Jewish communal life and how we can reach people, feel connected, how we can create community, and even when you can't have congregation, even when you can't have campus, how you still can be community and function at our height.
Right, very interesting. How has it been going back during this period? You know, what are the stages that you've gone through? What are the considerations? You know, us in England now only starting to have a minyan again. If you could maybe share some of those
Sure.
thoughts.
Well, we've always said that what the CDC or the local government guides you is a obligation legally, but it's a suggestion morally. Meaning, you know, what they're saying doesn't mean it's the maximalist approach. It can be the minimalist approach, and you can still do more to be able to, because of the premium that we put on preserving and saving lives. So just because something is allowed doesn't mean it's smart or wise or prudent to do. So once we were allowed to congregate, which in Florida, it never stopped actually, there was a religious exemption all along. But once we decided to return, we did so outdoors. All the studies and data show that outdoors is safer than indoors. We began outdoors, we marked out locations, we kept people even more than 6 feet. We made them 10 feet apart. Everyone had to mask. We created a system of captains and gabayim for each minyan. One would focus on the ritual of the minyan, the other would focus on the compliance, that people were wearing their masks and were standing apart. And of course, some of the challenges are we only opening it to men over bar mitzvah? What about women who want communal prayer, or might be saying Kaddish? What about people whose 11, 12-year-old sons want to join them at davening as well? Should they be deprived? These were some of the questions. In Florida, we had the additional challenge of extraordinarily hot weather, humid weather, and wearing a mask and davening outside might protect you from some dangers, but might welcome others. So we davened outside for a couple of weeks. We ran simultaneous minyanim. We looked at our campus. We had security. We had guards. We had captains and gabayim for each minyan. We had overall tremendous compliance. People were so grateful to be back. I'll never forget the first time answering Kaddish and Kedusha once we convened again, and feeling like it was, for me, it was as if it was a ne'ilah, having not had so in really many, many weeks and months. Shortly after, really relatively shortly after, we moved back inside. And here too, we organize things really carefully, going above and beyond what the guidance was. So there are no shared surfaces. Our bathrooms are closed. Every room is closed other than where we daven. The doors are propped open, so no one touches or shares a handle. Sidurim and chumashim are, everyone has to bring their own. There's no shared surfaces whatsoever. So when you arrive at shul, you arrive already in your talis and tefillin. You put them on in the car. You walk through a propped open door. You make it to your seat. The seats are 10 feet away from the closest seat. Everyone wears a mask. You daven, you leave, you go out. You never share a surface. You never touch a handle. You don't talk directly to other people. The davening has been without talking whatsoever, which is refreshing, although the missing of the social component and the connection between people has been very challenging and very difficult. So the result is that it's a really safe environment, really safe environment. In fact, our system was tested because several weeks ago we had somebody who, after attending Minyan, tested positive. And yet, even though they had tested positive after attending, there was no transmission. Nobody else tested. In fact, my son-in-law, it turns out, happened to have sat next to that person, 10 feet away with masks, and he was completely fine, thank God. There was no transmission, which just reinforces that if you have strong guidance, distancing, masks, no shared surfaces, minimal time, abbreviated, we start already at Yishtabach or Nishmas on Shabbos, then you can mitigate, not eliminate, but mitigate the challenges.
That's very interesting. You mentioned that you've taken more drastic steps. Do you think that's obligated by the halacha, or is that something that your community decided to do? Obviously, there's a difference between pikuach nefesh and the hagdarot that we have in halacha versus what the government's considering. Do you want to maybe talk about those processes?
Yeah, sure. I definitely think that our responsibility, I think halacha and halachic morality guide us to be as strict as possible, but within reason. You can take a fearful approach and be entirely strict and decide that every single winter in the flu season, we're going to cancel shul, school, and life. You could decide I'll never travel in a car or a plane because there is a statistical chance, even though it's small. So obviously, what halacha guides us is pikuach nefesh within reason and within statistical reason. So, again, just because restaurants are open, barbershops are open, just because there's an opportunity to go to the mall, doesn't mean it's the wise or smart thing to do. So one has to differentiate between what are essential activities and non-essential activities, and that will add to the trying to create the understanding of what is essential that's worth even a small risk, and what's not essential that's worth even that small risk. So one of the things we did early on is convene a task force of doctors, medical experts, access to hospital leadership, and rabbanim, and to try to combine our marba eitzah, marba tefuna, the more advice, the more wisdom we have, and each and every day to evaluate where we at, what can we do, should we loosen up, should we tighten up, what are the messaging that we need to get out. I'm going to be sending out a video later today because there's another message we need to get out now, which is we're starting to see a spread infiltrate into our community. And thank God it's young people and they've had a cold, a cough, a headache, a flu. Some have just lost a sense of smell and nothing more. But there's a stigma around a positive test that people are either ashamed or feel guilty and they're not sharing. And that's dangerous. Yeah. So we need to get rid of the stigma, and we need people to be willing to tell others if they have it, so that those with whom they've come in contact can know. Maybe their children have gone to a camp and follow the CDC guidelines. If there's a positive test in a home, the rest of the family members in that home need to quarantine, can't go out. Yeah. So people need to make others aware. We need to follow the guidance and the guidelines, because even if it's just young people, and there's evidence that there could be chronic problems even with young people who get it, yeah. But even if it's just young people, there are more vulnerable populations this could trickle down to, and that could be very dangerous.
Well, so just slightly changing the direction, we've lived with this for a number of months, and you may even say now there's like an entirely new genre of halacha, kind of like Piskei Corona, in terms of the questions, also sometimes in some places in terms of the answers, the psak that was given. Sometimes we've been more makel than maybe we normally would be, or more machmir in some cases, I guess. So the question is, moving forward, do you think this has at all changed how we would approach halacha? Do you think there are things that we need to be concerned about going forward in this regard? Someone I was speaking with recently said he wasn't sure Zoom minyanim was such a good idea, because okay, if you're in a frum congregation, but if you're not from congregation, so after Corona, people start saying, okay, so let's do Zoom all the time. What do you think about that? Is it possible to go back to normal, do you think, after this?
I've had that concern all along. I've been very concerned all along, and it's guided a lot of what we've done. So, for example, There are shuls that did Friday night Kabbalah Shabbos with musical instruments, and we never did it. And I'm not judging or criticizing anyone. Everyone has to do what works for them. My hesitation was not a halachic hesitation. My hesitation was, what happens when we resume and people say, Kabbalah Shabbos with guitars and drums was really great. Let's introduce that on Friday night from now on.
Yeah.
We, for example, did not host Yizkor on Chol HaMoed Pesach or before Shavuos. We sent out an email where I had recorded a Yizkor sermon and where we had recorded a Holocaust survivor who normally leads the Yizkor. We sent out some meaningful reading and links. But we didn't host a Yizkor service because I'm fearful that there are many Jews, particularly the less observant, who Yizkor is their point of connection to Shul. And in subsequent years, they're going to say, you know what? I'll do an online Yizkor. It saves time. I don't have to get there. I don't have to go. And so, Mechiras Chametz, we, of course, did arrange for the sale of Chametz online. There was no alternative this year. I'm concerned. In future years, will people say, I'll just do it online. Why bother coming to see the rabbi? To be clear, I don't get a penny from Mechiras Chametz.
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem, all the money goes to Ma'oz Chitim in our community, so I'm not worried about money in my pocket. I'm worried about that interaction and the preferable way of selling Chametz. And the list of examples could go on and on about needing to be judicious and wise, needing to be really thought out and careful. What are we doing that's helping people and adding value? But Ezu Chacham Haroa Es Hanolad, we have to see what the outcome is and what's left on the other side of some of the choices and behaviors that we're making right now. Rav Shechter, who's my Rebbe, came out with several new halachic responses just today, including normally we don't listen to music in the 3 weeks, but if a person is very sad, depressed, despondent, then perhaps they'd be allowed to this year because of Corona. He talked about not davening outdoors on Shavasa B'Tammuz if it means you might have to break your fast because you're outdoors, more important to fast than to daven on your own. So there definitely are all kinds of calculations that are being taken into effect, and this is a renewed appreciation for our sacred Masorah and why we have leaders of our generation who can carry us on their shoulders and answer these extraordinary questions. Those are relatively easy questions. How to policies on ventilators and triage are much more complicated questions. Right. And how blessed we are to have some outstanding leaders. I know some of whom you're including in this series who can answer those questions for us.
Yeah. Okay. Taking it kind of the opposite, is there anything that you think maybe your community's learned that you're going to carry with you moving forward? I've in my work here, just using Zoom a lot more and letting things be more accessible for people has been one thing. But is there anything else like that that maybe has caused you to think differently and to go with it moving forward?
Yeah, technology has been a great double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's enabled us to reach people and to connect with people. On the other hand, like I say, it can create distance in the future of people who won't come. But the technology has been an extremely beautiful blessing. We're going to carry that forward. I think the fact that we are socially distanced in shul is painful. Shul should be a place, it's a base knesset, a place that we gather. But the fact that that distancing has eliminated talking altogether has been a beautiful new change to davening, which I hope we can continue. Talk before and talk after, not need to rush in or rush out, please God, in the future, but learn to fully be present while we're there and not have talking whatsoever. So there definitely are things that we can appreciate more than ever now from this experience.
How do you, or what are your personal gains from Corona? It's obviously been very tragic in a number of places, but there are a lot of lessons, personal lessons I think we've all learned. And the question really is, what are those for you, would you say? What do you think those are for Am Yisrael, I guess? And also thoughts about how we can carry that through. Memory is often very short. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. The way I put it, and I've been thinking a lot about this, is the following. There are things that we're doing that are abnormal, and I'm fearful that they're going to feel normal. I hope that they will continue to be abnormal for us. Some of the way that we're functioning in terms of davening and distancing and some of the things that we've already spoken about. And I'm concerned that they'll start to feel normal and become normal, and I hope that we will never become adjusted to them. I hope they'll continue to be abnormal. And there are things that feel abnormal, how much time we're spending with family, going for walks, the kind of Shabbos meals that we've been having. They're abnormal to the way we've done it historically. I hope they're going to start to feel normal because they've been beautiful. And they've taught us that we can create the margin and the space. We can have the quality of the time and the quantity of the time. We can focus on aspects of our lives that we didn't think that we had the bandwidth to do. So I hope that some of the things that feel abnormal based on the way we've always done it will start to become normal. And that's what I think that we should all be mindful of, is not just find ourselves doing things, but actually thoughtfully doing them. So what is it that is becoming normal we hope will feel abnormal? And what is it that feels abnormal that we hope will become more normal? Are good questions to be thinking about for ourselves and conversations for our families.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. This has been very enlightening. These times are very, very difficult, especially for people in positions of leadership and Rabbanim who've had to navigate completely new scenarios. And we're very thankful that yourself and the other Rabbanim have made themselves available to answer questions from the Tzibur here, to get a sense of where the world, the Jewish world, is at in terms of Corona, and to also help us moving forward. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Thank you.